Welcome to week 4. Your group's primary focus this week should be on the derivation of one single expression to determine the radius of the balloon for neutral buoyancy at the required altitude and given the required payload. You will also need to complete the individual quiz that is available on Canvas before Tuesday, September 23rd at midnight. Looking ahead to week 5, you should have an estimate for the balloon radius completed. Look at last week's announcement on Canvas to determine if your estimate is within the range of expected values. Next week, we will look at how you can incorporate design choices into the balloon design and how you convey those choices in a presentation format to an engineering audience. We will also look at the specific contents that should go into your presentation and cover the logistics for submission. Lastly, we will look at what happens to our balloon system during the day and during the night. We will look at a way to model those changes, as your group will need to determine ways to keep the balloon within the required altitude limits. I say these things because I've heard a few groups discussing ballast and venting. While these are perfectly fine things to discuss at this stage of the design, you don't quite have the theoretical backing to determine how much venting or ballast you'll need. You will get that next week. If your group has determined a good estimate for the balloon radius without the effects of solar radiation, you can begin to think about how you would determine how much ballast or venting you would need if the balloon increased or decreased in altitude. But I strongly recommend that you don't look into these issues until you have a good estimate of the initial volume of the balloon. Looking here at some important aspects of the quiz. You will have 1 hour to complete the quiz from when you choose to start it. You need to complete the quiz by Tuesday, September 23rd, 1 minute before midnight. Please do not wait to the end. This is an individual quiz. If you are not sure what that means, please ask me for more details and I can expand upon what is allowed and what is not allowed. Please use the Slack channel to ask clarification questions, but do not ask things that would give hints about the quiz contents and especially possible answers to other students. Please record your work during the quiz in the event of a grade dispute or an issue with your internet connection. The quiz will be mostly multiple choice, but there is one question that asks for a file upload, so make sure to have a pencil or pen and a piece of paper handy, as well as a device to upload a picture of a drawing. You can also upload directly from a tablet. We will use the Balloon 2 data from the LA experimental video for the questions that deal with the scale model balloon. You may have used different numbers for your scale model development, but please use the provided values so your answers are consistent with the choices provided in the quiz. You are highly encouraged to be familiar with and use the MATLAB code your group has developed thus far. Keep in mind that you will not be permitted to collaborate with your group mates during the quiz, so you should be familiar with the operation and contents of the code before starting the quiz. To help you prepare for the quiz, here is a list of the topics you may expect to be on the quiz. In short, nearly everything we've covered so far in the lab may be on the quiz. You will also be expected to incorporate your thermodynamics knowledge developed so far in lecture with Professor Thayer, as well as the significant figures discussions from Professor Thayer, as well as those in 2012 with Professor Neeram and Professor Jackson. The specific chapter of your 2012 book is provided here for completeness and to help you direct your preparations. I recognize that you may not be at the point in 2012 to properly propagate uncertainties, but you should be able to recognize answers with incorrect significant figures. For these questions of the quiz, I recommend you ignore the uncertainties of the measurements, calculate the answer without using the uncertainties, and then pick the closest answer with correct significant figures to your calculated answer. Two of the primary rules for significant figures from the Taylor Introduction to Error Analysis book are provided here as a reminder. One quiz question will deal with lawn chair Larry. So a little background about this very confident individual. A similar feat took place more recently with illusionist David Blaine, who is also regarded as very confident as well. Before we get to the details of these stories, an announcement to say that CU Boulder does not recommend any similar adventures except under the guidance of trained professionals. Please keep in mind that completion of this lab assignment doesn't quite make you a professional in balloon stunts, but it will help you analyze these systems from a first principles analysis. Saying this another way, please do not attempt to do what Lawn Chair Larry or David Blaine have done. Thank you. Now there's no better summary of Lawn Chair Larry than from Wikipedia, so I'll read verbatim. On July 2nd, 1982, Larry Walters made a 45-minute flight in a homemade airship made of ordinary patio chair and 45 helium-filled weather balloons. The aircraft rose to an altitude of over 15,000 feet and floated from the point of takeoff in San Pedro, California, into and violating controlled airspace near Los Angeles International Airport. During the landing, the aircraft became entangled in power lines, but Walters was able to safely climb down. He slowly drifted over Long Beach and crossed the primary approach corridor of Long Beach Airport. He was in contact with the Citizens Band radio monitoring organization, who recorded their conversation. Here's my reenactment of that conversation from Wikipedia. What information do you wish to tell me, the airport, at this time, as your location and your difficulty? This is Larry's response. Uh, the difficulty is, this was an unauthorized balloon launch, and I know I'm in federal airspace, and I'm not. I'm sure my ground crew has alerted the proper authority, but just call them and tell them I'm okay. After 45 minutes in the sky, Walter shot several balloons, taking care not to unbalance the load. He then accidentally dropped his pellet gun overboard. He descended slowly until the balloon's dangling cables got caught in a power line in Long Beach. The power line broke, causing a 20-minute electricity blackout. He eventually landed unharmed on the ground. The aircraft was dubbed Inspiration 1. Lawn Chair Larry was awarded the title of At-Risk Survivor in the 1993 Darwin Awards. You can read much more on Lawn Chair Larry on Wikipedia and other sources online. There's also several videos that have been made in memory of this flight. David Blaine's launch can be viewed on YouTube. I highly recommend it as they do go into some engineering behind the feet. And that's all for this week's intro video. Thank you, and I'll see you in lab.